Wow, that was a pretty long manifest. That's the fastest I've ever seen a train go inbound on track 4. And I think what's going to happen here is another one is going to head east. Just a minute. Starting the season, you know, we ran out of wood last year. I had to cut some and bring it down, which is fine. And this is the beginning of the pile for this year. And one of the things I like to do is scrape out the floor. And this little Kubota has a dump box. So what we're going to do today is take advantage of that. I'll put some of the junk off the floor in this thing and bring it out to the woods and dump it, and then come back with a load of firewood. Now, if I do that on a regular basis every day, this will fairly quickly fill back up. Now, I lost a little bit of space. I always lose the war to hay. Of course, that comes back to bite you when it gets really cold. So, yeah, the advantage of this is I can stack it right up to the top. So what I lost in space horizontally, I think I'm going to recover vertically. But yeah, this is the first, maybe second day that I'm, beginning to actually go collect firewood from the logs that I had dropped, I don't know, a couple years back. Now, some of that stuff was already a little, beyond their service life in terms of firewood. They're getting a little punky, but a lot of it isn't. So we're going to go out and start picking at it, and little by little, I want to do different spots so I have a mix of firewood instead of just all maple. And we will, little by little, build it up. Sorry, just removed that stuff. I got a little dirt on board there, and backed it up to where this tree has a hollow next to it. Boy, it's a hot day today. I'm procrastinating. I should be mowing the lawn. I just don't feel like mowing the lawn. Plenty of spark. Don't need that. We'll need that. That as well. This will be on the shift side of the controls. Got a couple of them, because I have a couple of these motors laying around. And what we're doing today, actually the last couple of days, this here is a very important bolt right here, is moving motors. This is a 1980s era inline 6 and much more modern ignition than that 1250 I had on there before on the little Conqueror that's sitting out there, the blue boat. And I was going to do a complete rebuild on this motor, but checking the compression, it turns out they all have between 119 and 121 pounds. And it's been sitting for a long time. By the way, these are the right way to lift these motors. Not how I took the other one off. You know, other than a couple of wires that are a little fragile looking, it looks in pretty decent shape. I don't see oil coming out the prop shaft or anything either. Now I plan to do what I can to change the water pump, prop it more properly than what I had on before. But there are a few changes on this from the earlier version. You know, carburetors are the same, the linkage is the same. But for example, instead of having the screw-in type clamps, I'm going to have to bolt this to the transom completely. You know, I'm hoping that the holes at the lower section line up with the holes I already have in there. And then of course I'm going to have to put these through in lieu of having the clamps. But this has been laying around the garage now for, my God, 6 or 7 years. I keep wanting to get to it, and you know, I wasn't thrilled when I saw some of the little bits of corrosion. Made me think of salt water. But this is the motor that came off. I had to hang it on the boat here for, you know, a period of time until I can get it on the stand. And it has the old style ignition. It runs fine, you know, and I shorted up the wires so they weren't cracked. It's actually pretty good. But I like these old pull pins as compared to what the other one has. Of course, all that down there is pretty much the same. The linkage is, well, pretty much the same. Now on this one, I'd replaced all the diaphragms, all the fuel lines and stuff like that. Good running motor, no doubt. I put on a new solenoid. I also put on a new plug here. The one that was on there was pretty wasted. And fired up and idled real nice. Got me up and down the lake nice. Nothing wrong with the motor. You can see them. here comes a train. That white thing right there is mile marker 282. Now that was a really cool train for me. 2 leads and a DPU trash train. Very cool. Well, check this out. This is a Husqvarna 298. It's a big boy. Lots of displacement. I can't hardly pull it over. And Bob's coming up tomorrow, so we were trying to find the most unusual saw bar combination we can come up with. And this was one of the ones I came up with. You know, you kind of hear about them, but you never see them. They're kind of a rare breed. And, you know, it's a 1980s, late 70s, early 80s design. It still has the bar oil in the tank handle. So both the fuel and the bar oil are in this aluminum handle, like a die casting of some kind. And you know, shortly after that, they put the bar oil back in the case and just left the fuel in the handle. One of the things that happened also was with 372s is, see those carburetor bolts that go right to the cylinder? Well, right up through the 272 series, it was kind of that way, and they were a method to, or a path for heat to go from the cylinder back into the carburetor, heat that thing up, promote the gas to boil in there. So the new ones, like 390s and stuff like that, they put a boot, isolated the carburetor completely from the cylinder. Just a little detail point. But this saw here is in very, very nice shape. You know, I'm not sure exactly when it was built. I don't really see a tag on it anywhere. But would like to see if I can make it run. But honestly, I don't know if I can actually pull it over. I started to try and it just goes boom, 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 with about all the strength I have. So what I think I'm going to do is pull the spark plug and turn it over, put some gas inside the cylinder, and see if I can get it to turn over a little easier. And then put a little gas in the tank and see if I can't get it to fire. Now the thing I'm afraid of on these is they had like these rubber lines that went from the bar oil tank to the pump, right? And it's a pretty big heavy pump, and they just rot. So there's a chance I can get to fire but have no bar oiling capability. And finding those rubber lines that go from the here to here, they're molded. That could be a chore. We'll end up having to come up with something to retro in its place. You can see that this one once did have a chain brake. See that right there? Kind of the stop. I'm going to probably pull that off. And it does not have bucking spikes, so I'm thinking of taking some of these old Chinese steel bucking spikes and grinding off the back and drilling holes so I can put it at the front of this thing. But what I wanted to show you was this. I was looking for air filters. I couldn't find anything. Then finally I found this old, take a look at that handle, Husqvarna 480. And sure enough, it has the same carburetor intake boot. So, and it had a filter that was just as crusty as it was. And so I blew it out as best I could, and then realized that you can actually split these things apart. See if I can do it with one hand, like that. And then I was able to clean it much more thoroughly. Isn't that clever? So I need to do this even more. I need to clean it more. And I need to find a couple of more for that vintage saw. You know, it's stuff like this that'll keep you from actually being able to run a saw. You know what I'm saying? But fortunately in the junk pile we had some bits and pieces. So anyway, I'm going to progress a little bit on this, put the camera down. Believe it or not, it has spark. That's a shocker for me. I'm very surprised it has any spark at all. I can't pull it over and hold the camera at the same time. Spark. Still sparks. So kill switch does not work.